Hey everyone, this is Mark Cunningham and welcome back to another episode of Over-Caffeinated. If you haven't watched before, our slogan is like the view, but not terrible. So we're coming to you virtually again, and we have our usual guest, Beacon CEO, Justin Owen. Justin, thanks for joining us.
As always.
And we have one of the funniest people I've certainly ever talked to, maybe in my whole life, but he is a comedian, writer, and producer. He served as the comedy producer of True TV's Impractical Jokers. So every year when you're trying to watch the NCAA tournament, figure out what channel True TV is, he's very well versed in that. He was the head writer and producer at We the Internet TV, and now he's the head of the Lou Perez Podcast, and also one of the two actually funny libertarians. So we really appreciate being on with us, Lou.
Thank you very much. And, being a funny libertarian, it's a lot better than being, I guess, an awkward libertarian. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Like, do you and Remy fight about like who's funnier? Cause like we have the two really funny people and that's it that we have.
I don't think we're allowed to be in the same room, because if something goes wrong and, a bomb goes off, then, we're done.
Who's
that? That's Greg Gutfeld trying to make us laugh. So that's not
got to have a designated survivor.
That's right. So let's talk about coffee here. So do you have your coffee with you, Lou?
I do.
So what are you drinking? So we always talk about this. I mean, are you kind of a name brand drinker, or what kind of coffee are you drinking right now?
Well, I never drank coffee until I was around 30, and I'm 39 now. So I went like close to my whole life without ever touching the stuff. But then I started chipping at espresso in particular. And, it's sort of like, the equivalent of if you don't often drink, hard alcohol, right? You do it in shots. So it's like you have the pain for a little, for a moment. So it was sort of a similar thing with espresso. So I've been like an espresso fiend for a long time. And right now I'm operating out of a WeWork, and they have free coffee out there. So I'm drinking whatever came out of that tap, just straight. It's straight black. It's doing the job. It's kind of like I'm a heroin addict, but there's a methadone clinic. So here I am.
So you're not fancy in that way. So you'll pretty much drink whatever somebody puts in front of you now.
Pretty much. And I think unfortunately I was at I never learned at the beginning what good coffee is supposed to taste like. So my mind, I guess, I might be drinking just real garbage right now, but my mind is like, well, it's better than the other stuff you started on. So,
That's right. I didn't start drinking coffee till I was 23 either. And I think it saves us money that we'll buy $6 coffees, and I'm into flavored coffee now, as Justin will tell you. I actually have a caramel walnut shortbread decaf coffee. I know I mix it up now. It's not fancy, but it's definitely fruity.
That's like a Willy Wonka.
It is. So Justin, what are you drinking? Are you kind of
speaking of WeWork? My wife and I watched the documentary on WeWork over the weekend. And the founder, obviously a lot of weird issues, was ordering a coffee, showing somebody like what WeWork was all about. And he ordered a cappuccino and the guy gave him a latte. And apparently the founder wants cappuccinos, but actually likes lattes. And so he decided to just change the name. And everybody at WeWork referred to one as the other for him. So I thought that was interesting. I'm just drinking a typical Nespresso. My wife got some new pods that are pretty good. And
I do the pods too. Yeah.
It's a lot easier, but I do like espresso as well. I'm a big espresso fan.
It's tough past 3 p.m. though. When you're drinking the caffeine at this point,
yeah.
It sometimes you have a hard time. I have a hard time sleeping.
Well, you know what I do?
Lighter coffees.
I do something that's really stupid, and like every morning while other people are having like their morning coffee, I'm having like a pre-workout mix, like a pre-workout shake, and most of the time I don't even go work out. So I'm just like sort of sitting at my at my desk, just kind of like shaking. And then when the shakes go away, it's like, well, I mean, there's no reason why I can't have like 4 shots of espresso right now. So that's what I'm operating. Maybe this is a cry for help. This might actually be an intervention.
We could turn this into an intervention.
That's right. I don't know if I know Dr. So is your friend. I don't know if she's listening or not, but I'm sure this would be maybe she needs to step in.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have an fMRI imaging of my brain, and Dr. So is gonna tell me what's going wrong.
So, okay, well, let's get into topics here. So one thing that has been kind of blowing up social media, I'd say over the past, couple of weeks or months, is that politicians, a lot of them, which have been on the left, are using specific words to mean things that they absolutely do not mean at all. So, for example, I think Kirsten Gillibrand used the term infrastructure to describe childcare and paid family leave. We've heard how racism is a pandemic or a public health crisis, which again, that's not, it's a problem, sure, but it's not that. So I guess I'm interested to get both your thoughts. Is this a big deal? Does this actually matter? Word change all the time? And why are they doing this? So Lou, we'll start with you.
Well, I think, if you look at the work of George Carlin, where a lot of the stuff that he focused on was language, and the way that language can impact the way that people view the world or view really important things going on. So for him, he had the really great bit that was calling out how PTSD used to be shell shock, shell shock. Like that's a very strong way to put what men had been through in war. They were shell shocked. And then as the euphemisms, continue, the language gets weaker. And I think we might be seeing something here sort of in reverse, where it's kind of like, this word isn't bad enough, so let's add another thing to it to make it even more bad. And it's, for me, it's very weird, because it's like we should be able to discuss what infrastructure is, or the importance of, women being able to go back to work, or having a structure there with their employers where that's feasible, and how can we help make that happen. But to call it, like, infrastructure, like a shovel ready sort of thing. I think it muddies it. So I think for some people it might make it sound more important.
So Justin, do you think you can have an honest conversation about, again, some people, infrastructure is good, it's bad. You could say paid family leave should be a thing, it shouldn't be a thing. But can you have an honest conversation when you're calling something like infrastructure?
Well, that's what their goal is, I think, is to change the terms of the debate, right? They don't want to just talk about infrastructure in terms of roads and highways and bridges and that kind of thing. They want to fund a lot more than that. And the best way to do that is to call something infrastructure that's not really infrastructure, to, in a sense, hoodwink people. As you said, Lou, we should talk about childcare and the ability of moms to go back to work and parents to go back to work. But that's not infrastructure. If we're having an infrastructure debate, let's have an infrastructure debate. But they don't want that. They want to be able to get as much as they can and to be able to redefine terms. We saw this with the environment. They went from global warming to, that's not always accurate, so it's just climate change. However it changes, we're going to define the terms of the debate. And it's disingenuous for sure. And I think that's part of why people get so fed up with politics and with Washington, is because they never know what you're really talking about, because they know what these terms mean, but then you're using them to talk about it in such a very different way.
Well, that's great. So let's move on to a new poll actually that came out, I think it was last week. Real Clear showed that support for school choice is at an all-time high. 71% of people now support school choice, which includes 66% African-American support and 68% Hispanic support. So, I mean, this is a big deal, I think, especially with the pandemic and people looking for options. So why are these numbers important? And I guess, what do you make of them? I mean, do you think that it's time to act now? Does it seem like kind of a time to leverage the fact that everybody wants a choice because they've seen kind of what public school teachers do when they don't go into work? Lou, what do you think about these numbers? And I know you're a big school choice advocate.
Yeah, I had a really great discussion with Corey DeAngelis, and Corey covers this stuff, and he pointed out, he's like the best thing that could happen to the school choice movement is basically the behavior of the teachers unions over, the last year or so, where, how is it that you see private schools or, private Catholic schools open children going there, parents being able to count on that. And then the public school down the road is still closed. The obvious question is, why is that happening? Or when you hear more and more people are being vaccinated, and even with that, schools still saying, no, we need to be closed. So I think it's one of these things, these sort of like a fortuitous thing that's happened, where it's really just pulled the curtain back and just shown the power of the teachers unions, and how they don't really have the best interest of students or families in mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with somebody who says, "Oh, even when I'm vaccinated, I'm still not going to go back." Then why do you even teach? What's the point of that? Yeah. So, Justin, what about in Tennessee? So, obviously, we have a kind of a school choice program currently on hold. I mean, what do you think these numbers from this poll kind of mean for Tennessee?
Well, I think they show that parents are seeing this firsthand more than they ever have. I mean, we've always seen that school choice is popular, particularly among minority families, because they're the ones stuck in schools that aren't meeting their needs, and they don't a lot of times have the resources to move to a better school district or to pay for private school tuition. And so we've always advocated for, if we're spending this set amount on each child, let's let that family take it wherever they want. Who cares where they get a quality education, as long as they get a quality education? But we've never had so many parents have a firsthand example of not being able to receive a quality education for their child. And again, it's the lower income families who are struggling the most, because many of them have to work 2 jobs. They can't work from home. They're essential workers who go, out, have to go work, and they can't be there making sure their kid is in front of a computer all day and learning. And so they're really struggling right now. And yeah, again, the teachers unions are just like, so what? They've made it very clear that none of this is about the kids. It's about money, and it's about adults. And finally, parents, I think, are starting not only to just see that and read about it and think about it, but they're living it day to day right now in a way that they never have. And I think that's why you see an all-time support for it. It's extremely unfortunate that the local governments are the ones who sued to stop our school choice program here. And that's why we're in front of the Tennessee Supreme Court right now, arguing in favor of opening that program up. Because, man, if parents had had these options this last year, they would have been so much better off. And these kids that are so far behind would be so much better off. Yet again, adults stood in the way, and they've made it all about where's the money going. They've made it about themselves rather than about the children.
Also, I think it really shows the crisis of science education in public schools in particular, because I mean, I've been waiting for like all the science teachers to pop up and say, yeah, the science says we can open. Like, we should be open right now. Let's follow the science. Let's listen to the experts.
Well, and the things that they add, in California, it's not about, oh, we want to be safe as teachers. We want the, people to be safe going back into the schools. It's like, we've got to raise income taxes, and we've got to do this, and that is completely unrelated. They've really hoodwinked everybody, and they've seized on a crisis in order to get their political agenda across the finish line. And that's,
as long as they rename all those schools in San Francisco, that's all that really matters. Make sure the racist names are off them. Forget about the kids going back to school. But this is, it's an important thing. And really, Gavin Newsom is probably getting recalled because of this very thing. The kids not being in school is one of the major issues for that election. So moving on, thankfully, somebody has finally fought back against the problems in society. So Warner Brothers has canceled Pepe Le Pew. So I think that we can all feel safe at home now for perpetuating rape culture. One of the interesting things about cancel culture is it appears that comedians kind of like Lou seem to be the last line of defense against this. And it doesn't really matter their political views, right? You have like Bill Burr, Dave Chappelle. You have people who are kind of center left or left, and they're the ones who are fighting back against this. So I want to hear from both of you. One, do you think cancel culture is actually a problem? We keep hearing from the left that it's not, and maybe it's not as big of a deal as we make it out to be. And then two, do you see the pendulum kind of starting to swing back the other way, where it seems like people are kind of getting mad about this and we don't want to deal with this anymore? So Lou, we'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, I definitely think that it is a problem. And, some of the people that you mentioned, Bill Burr, Dave Chappelle, like if we're being honest, those guys really don't have to worry about being canceled. Not only are they established, but they're living legends when it comes to comedy. They have nothing to worry about. But we see, this trickle effect, this where, cancel culture has now gotten to the point where, that recent example of that editor from Teen Vogue who was fired for tweets that she had put out when she was 17 or, over like 10 years ago. And it's sort of one of these things where if we had, if there was much sense to cancel culture, right? If there was like sort of a clear line of, okay, this is what is indefensible. And if you've committed this act, then you're gone for this amount of time. If there was like a sentencing guidelines for cancel culture, that would be something. But it just seems like it's one of these things where we're going to take out whoever we can take out. And I think it's getting just more and more ridiculous, where if you look at something like the criminal justice system, where the idea is, hey, if you commit a crime when you're 17 years old, 18 years old, you go and you spend 5-10 years in prison. When you come out, the idea is, look, you paid your debt to society, and we want to make sure that you're able to, you're able to produce, you're able to thrive, you're able to live a new life. But when it comes to this thing, this cancel, this culture of cancellation, that doesn't seem to be there, and it's very, it's troubling for sure.
So just to be clear, you want to do mandatory minimum sentencing for cancel culture.
Three strikes you're out. Yeah.
There you go. So Justin, I know that you kind of talked about it, why, and I think the term cancel culture is probably overused because it kind of just means whatever kind of you want it to mean. But do you think that this issue of kind of canceling people or people not being able to say things that they think are funny, especially comedians, is that a problem? And are we kind of going the other way at this point? It seems like, I think there's a poll that Bill Maher cited that like 80% of people are against this, but yet the people that they're afraid to talk about it.
Well, the loudest people are always in a minority, right? They have a few group of people that believe something and they scream the loudest and think that everybody else believes that. But I do think it's a problem because of what Lou said. There's no terms of the debate. It's not that if you do this, then you're done. Like, we're not going to take you seriously and we're going to ostracize you. But it is constantly evolving based off whoever decides what they're going to be outraged at for that day. And it can be anything. And it also, with the Pepe Le Pew example, the whole purpose of that cartoon was to show like how ridiculous it was to act that way and to teach kids that it's not appropriate to act that way. Yet now it's not even that we want to excommunicate that. We don't even want to see that it exists. We want to code over it and act like it doesn't even exist in society. And that's not a healthy way to talk about issues. And so that's part of the problem with cancel culture, is that you can't even define it because the people who are perpetuating this change what it means every single day. And I think it is also, as Lou said, inconsistent with things like criminal justice reform, where the left and the right have actually come together and figured out ways to make significant headway on that issue, to give people a second chance and to realize that when you did something many, many years ago, you can be redeemed. And that's just not the way. They're not using the same examples, or they're not, holding people to that same standard when it comes to whatever it is that they don't like that day.
And the rules are different based on what you talk about too, right? Like if you're racist against Jewish people, you don't get as much trouble as if you're racist against black people. You saw that whole thing with Myers Leonard, like what he said in the NBA, and he basically got a slap on the wrist for that. And then if you compare Trump to Hitler, it's okay. But if you compare other people to Hitler, it's not okay if they're on the left. So, I mean, it's just, we need some kind of consistency on this at least. So I tried to get through an episode of The Daily Show. I haven't seen The Daily Show in a while. It used to be one of my favorite shows. I mean, I liked it. I thought John Oliver was funny. And after watching it, I cannot wrap my head around anybody who thinks Trevor Noah is funny. He is he is awful. How has he got in there? He's terrible. He's not funny. The show's not good. And obviously, if you disagree, either of you, feel free to express that. But I think he's awful. And it made me think of, like, Justin, you're a big fan of comedy. Lou, obviously, you are a comedian. I want to hear who you think is just the most overrated comedian of all time. I don't get where you're like, why does anybody like him, or why is he thought of in such high regards when he's just not that funny? So, or she that funny, if you want to use Lisa Lampanelli. So go ahead. We'll start with you, Lou. Who is your most overrated? Yeah,
well, I just want everyone to know I'm not angry about this. When I see this person, he doesn't make me angry. And also, in no way am I saying that I, can hold a candle to this person. But comedy legend Steve Martin has never really done it for me. And wow. I know that that's, that's sacrilegious. And again, I am no Steve Martin. I am, hardly Lou Perez at his best on most days.
You're canceled now.
but yeah, Steve Martin just hasn't really hit it for me. And I hear, so many people, he's so beloved, whether it's stand up or a movie like The Jerk. But yeah, for me, he just doesn't do it.
If you've seen Bringing Down the House with Queen Latifah, I think most people would agree with you. If that's I've never actually seen any of the old stuff from him. I've only seen his new stuff with just like awful trash movies. So I think that I agree with you, not having seen his old stuff. Justin, what about you?
So I think Trevor Noah is a pretty good one too. I can't even get through a commercial of The Daily Show, much less an actual episode. And
people like it. And he is like the hottest like girlfriend ever now too. He's like the girl from Friday Night Lights is dating him, Minka Kelly. It doesn't make any sense. I don't.
Well, he's a good looking guy. He's definitely a good looking guy.
His personality's so bad.
He's much better looking than he is funny, and he's also really wealthy. Like I think he just bought like a $40 million mansion in.
Okay. And he's not dumb. He's not a dumb guy. He's just off. He's just not funny. But yes, okay. Well.
But I will go with somebody else because you've already kind of taken ownership of that one. I think Kathy Griffin. I've never thought she's funny. I hated when she made appearances on my favorite show, Seinfeld. And I don't know. I've just always thought that she was really, really like nails on a chalkboard annoying.
Now, because of her voice or like her comedy,
voice, her hair, what comes out of her mouth.
Her hair? Are you anti-redhead?
I'm not anti-redhead. I'm just anti-her redhead.
Okay. Well, fair enough. I didn't see that going there, but that's her hair is what annoys you.
I think it's a testament, though, to the times we're living in, where you can have a bunch of comedians that just really irritate you, and have the ones that you really love, as opposed to it seems like I don't know how far back you have to go, where it was basically. No, these are the comedians and these are the funny ones and that's it.
I actually just listened to a podcast with Dane Cook. I don't think I know everyone hates him. I think he's pretty funny. At least when I was a kid, I like him, but he just said like the amount of people who just absolutely hate you. Like there's no like, oh, he's maybe a little bit overrated. Like he's like, people come to me in the street and say, you suck. It's insane.
Right. I once went to a stand-up show, and this was before I had even done stand-up. And there was a comedian on who was doing a Dane Cook impression, and not doing it in a way like, oh, I do a really good Dane Cook and having like fun with it. He was doing Dane Cook and like just shitting all over Dane Cook. And I was there just sitting and I'm like, man, Dane definitely performs for a lot more people, than you. So there's a point where sort of the impression comes off as just, pure bile, as opposed to like, I could do this impression and, I don't really like the guy, but I'm goofing and having fun with it.
Yeah, and I think it's also that they're still way funnier than normal people. It's like when I watch an NBA game, like Ursan Ilyasova sucks, I could beat him. Like I would get murdered by him. And Trevor Noah is way funnier than me. Like I'm willing to, even though I don't think he's funny, but like people have this idea that they have to be, and if they don't like one joke, they're like, I hate this guy now. And Dane Cook, I feel bad for that guy because he really took some heat there.
I don't know, though. I think that comedians can take it far better than anybody else. I mean, it's got to be the hardest thing to do. Like I've given, public speeches to hundreds and thousands of people, but I could never get up and make comedy and like make people laugh. I would be mortified at the thought of being able to do that. And I'm impressed by anyone who can. And so, but I also think that by doing that and putting yourself in that position, the humility that comes with that, the ability to take it, it has staying power for somebody. Like they have much thicker skin than say politicians, for example.
Well, I'm pro Dane Cook. I'm pro Nickelback. So, I'm pro everything everyone hates, but it doesn't matter. So let's move on to the next topic here. So I just tried the new Coke coffee. Have you seen this? So it basically tastes like Coke and then it goes down like coffee. It's cold. It's okay.
So it tastes like a flat Coke.
No, it still has like I don't know how to describe it, but it's super good. And I was surprised at how good it was. And it's something that I'm like, this is going to be gross. And how can it taste like Coke and coffee?
That should have been your coffee of the day.
I know. Yeah, I know. I just drank them in the fridge. I got it from Walmart. Amazon doesn't sell it yet, I guess. But It was great. And my question is, it's just something you would never think would go together. You're like, okay, Coke and coffee, how can they make a drink out of this? So my question is, I need you guys to name a food, a drink, or anything where you put two things together that most people be like, that's gross, or that won't taste good, or you thought wouldn't taste good, but that actually in reality is you really like. So Justin, we'll start with you on this one. What's something some kind of weird experiment that you think tastes good?
A Wendy's Frosty with fries. Like you can actually dip the fries in the Frosty and eat it. And that the sweetness of the Frosty and the saltiness of the fries and the crunch, it actually goes well together.
I think anytime you put like 2,000 calories, it's going to be good, no matter how you mix it. But I do. I mean, I have heard people say it before. I've never tried it, but
good.
What about you, Lou?
You know, for a long time, I never thought this was possible, but salt on chocolate. Mm-hmm. I had no idea. And it's one of those things when you become an adult and you start drinking way too much coffee, and then someone gives you one of these, salt covered chocolate delights. And it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing.
That is a good one.
Salt and sweet that creates a balance.
I tried truffle salt on some chocolate. It was unbelievably good.
Whoa, really?
I know. It's worth trying. I mean, I mixed it myself. So you could probably get it better from somewhere else, but I couldn't believe how good it was. Okay, so we're going to move on to this or that. So I'm going to give you a choice and you have one sentence to explain your answer. And we're doing kind of a cancel culture edition where you have to cancel one of these two things. So you have to pick which one you don't like that you need to cancel. So we'll start. Which sequel would you rather cancel? Caddyshack 2 or Grease 2? What is the worst sequel? They're kind of known as the two worst sequels ever, I think, in most things. But Justin, what about you? You get to start off on this.
Go with Grease 2 on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd probably have to go with Grease 2. I don't think I've seen it, but I have seen Caddyshack 2. And there was a time when I was so stupid and young that I thought Caddyshack 2 was better than the original. That's how
really
young and dumb.
Cultural.
That's how young and dumb I was. But then I realized that was not the case. And also I just realized that it's way more than one sentence. Sorry about that.
That works. Okay, next one. We'll start with you on this one. Which woke sportscaster do you want to cancel? Keith Olbermann or Jemele Hill? They were both in kind of the bracket of the most woke people. Who do you hate more?
Oh my God. I think Olbermann's not. Is he still doing sports?
He still does sports stuff.
He does back and forth.
ESPN Plus show now or something.
Wow. Oh man. Keith has had his time. It's time to go.
I agree.
Okay.
Keith Olbermann, hands down.
Yeah, Jemele Hill, she's awful 90% of the time, but every once in a while, I remember she called out LeBron for not speaking out against China. So she has moments of redemption where I don't think Keith Olbermann ever does.
Nothing.
Okay, which overrated band are you going to cancel? And these are my opinions of overrated bands: Dave Matthews or Metallica. Which one? Lou, we'll start with you on this one. Which one cancel?
Dude, man.
Are you a Metallica fan?
Well, no. Okay. You can get rid of Metallica, I guess. And the reason why is because in high school, my high school girlfriend and I had driver's ed together. This is before we were dating. And she asked me one day, do you listen to Dave? And I said, who's Dave? I thought she was talking about a guy we went to school with. But if you're in Long Island and you were a fan of Dave Matthews, you refer to him as Dave. And we had many a makeout session listening to Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds,
yes.
Their album at some college. So you know what? I guess Metallica.
You have fond memories of Dave, even if it wasn't.
Yeah, and I think that's what's doing it.
Okay. How about
I'm
you,
very weak.
Justin, you kind of seem like one of the Dave. You kind of seem like a Dave bro.
That I like Dave, and I'm kind of a hippie when it comes to music. So that, although I did go through a bit of a heavy metal phase in high school, and I like Metallica. Just
so you like both. So you just think I'm an idiot.
Between the two of them, I'm going to go with Nickelback.
Okay, well, I don't understand the hatred of Nickelback, but we'll allow it. So more annoying phrase: speak truth to power or trust the science. Which one do you hate more in terms of how they're used? Justin, we'll start with you on this one.
That's tough. Truth to power would have always been my thing, but after this year, I'm going to go with trust the science, because everybody that says it doesn't do it.
How about you, Lou?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. At least speaking truth to power. You can do it a few times a day, you could like pick and choose like, oh, that's power. I'll speak, I'll speak some truth to it. But yeah, the science stuff, I've had way too many run-ins with people where I tell them, well, no, this is actually what the science says. And they respond with, oh, what are you, a genius? What are you, a genius? Where's your lab coat? Huh?
I didn't know
How do you
anybody
know that?
do that. That's impressive. No, that's great. So last one that we have is the more overrated city, Austin or Seattle. We'll start with you on this one, Lou.
I've been to
They're
Austin.
both getting burnt down as we speak. But which one do you
Which is the more flammable city? Well, I would actually, I haven't been, I've been to Austin. I haven't been to Seattle. But if the past year tells you anything, I would actually throw in my hometown of New York. Over the past year it has reached overrated levels beyond my own comprehension.
Yeah, I've seen some of your stuff too. I mean, you're in New York, you've been there forever. I mean, is it somewhere that you're considering leaving at some point with everything going on?
I am getting out of here.
Okay, so you are.
Yeah, I'm escaping, man.
Nashville's a great place. We have no state income tax. A lot of great things.
That's too far.
Okay,
I'm not going that far.
Okay.
But no, I'm getting out of here. I'm gonna be a suburban dad. I'm getting ready for it.
Nice.
You don't get a New Jersey. That's good. So Justin, what about you? What's your overrated city? I know you kind of like both to some extent, but do you think Austin?
And I'm actually going to Austin in like a month for a work trip. Austin gets so hot, and I don't think the music is that good. Like, everything. Oh, live music capital. But coming from Nashville, you're like, yeah, I've kind of done that thing. So I'm probably going to go with Austin.
Okay, I agree. Great job. So before we go, Lou, we just had a couple questions for you. We want to talk to you kind of about what you're doing right now. And I've watched a lot of your videos. I think you're really funny. And I think one of the benefits of what you do is, I mean, obviously you personally are a libertarian, but you kind of crack jokes at kind of the far, I remember what was it, Joe Patriot, or the guy going around with his gun?
Sam Patriot.
Yeah, Sam Patriot. Sorry.
You know how I do.
That's right. That's right.
His phrase.
Yeah, but you do both. You do both sides. I mean, you really do hate. I mean, you make fun of liberals, but why is it important to you to make sure that you're kind of that your comedy focuses on both ends of the spectrum and not just one?
Well, I think there's something to, comedians are often tasked with holding up a mirror to society. And I think it's really important every now and then to remember to turn that mirror around and look at yourself. And it's a way to stay humble, but also it's a way to get, I think, really good material too, because, you should know yourself and your, political leanings, your philosophy better than others. So when that's a possibility, then you get to make, I think, jokes that other people on the outside wouldn't be able to make it. So as a libertarian, one of the jokes that I say is, some libertarians, their problem with the Holocaust was that it was carried out by the state, not the free market. So
talking about this then, what is a skit that you really like? I don't remember the guy's name that you did, but the straight white male, like spoofing that with all this kind of like ridiculous comedy that's like
Mr. Doug Allen.
Doug Allen, there you go. Say, what is your favorite skit? So I mean, we're gonna put one of the links to your videos. So if there's one video that somebody who's never heard of you said, like, what is your favorite skit you've ever done?
So far, my favorite skit that I've done so far is probably Woke Godzilla. And it's one of the first independent ventures that I've done. So it's basically Godzilla is attacking New York City, and everybody seems to know the reason why, and it just happens to coincide with whatever political fetish they have. And I'm really proud of that one because of the amount of time that went into it on the effects side. It was a lot of work went into it, and I'm hoping more and more people are able to see it.
So that's one of the new ones. I still have not actually seen it yet. I kind of have that on my to watch list. So I'll make sure I do that. I saw the thumbnail, the dinosaur in the back, and then the woman running away or whatever. But we'll make sure we attach it so people can watch that. And then kind of before I let you go, and we appreciate you spending time with us, how can people listen to you, find you? I know you host a podcast. You've had some really great guests on your podcast, some kind of big names on there.
Yeah. I host the Lou Perez Podcast, and you guys could sign up for my newsletter over at thelouperez.com. I think on all social media, I'm at the Lou Perez. And also, if you guys want to support my work, you can head over to thelouperez.locals.com and join my locals community. That'd be great.
And there really is so few truthfully funny comedians on our side, and having somebody who actually can hit the pop culture. I mean, Lou is unbelievably impressive, and I would definitely go to check out his work. So many people on the right try to be funny and are so unsuccessful at it. So having somebody who's actually successful at it, I mean, that's the kind of people we need to support. So definitely go and check out his stuff. He's great. Lou, man, we appreciate the time. Thank you for joining us in this show.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.